everyone, this is Marina Saran. Today is another video of mine in which it will be the continuation of my last video in which I shared about the gray hybrid programs or the gray hybrids. And so as promised in this video, I'm going to share with you my testimony in which I share with you my experiences, the experiences that I had with them, the conflict that I had with them, and the circumstances that made me to change my path completely away from their own path and stop co-creating with them and choose differently. So first of all, I'm going to start narrating how I got to be in contact with them and how I got to connect with the idea of the gray hybrid programs from the first time. Okay, the first time I realized about who they were is through an ex-boyfriend of mine that was a channeler, and he channeled a group of beings that will answer me a question in regards to the idea of hybrids, you know. So my circumstance is that I was seeing in synchronicity a lot the word hybrid, okay, everywhere. And I didn't know why. I didn't have any kind of idea why I was seeing the word hybrid. And I got a sensation that maybe the word hybrid meant that perhaps I was a hybrid myself. So when I asked that question, this being said, well, yes, you are partly correct. This is true for you. It's true that you have different genetics. You have more percentage of extraterrestrial genetics. So you will be considered hybridized, you know, or a hybrid by certain beings from that perspective. But the main reason of why you are seeing the word hybrid is because you are part of the hybrid programs. And what they told me is that, well, we know that you are familiar with the gray hybrid programs. However, there are many other hybrid programs that involve humanoid extraterrestrials rather than just the grays, you know. And so I was like, oh, that's very interesting, you know. And so starting from that point, I started to have certain, I always had like weird like nightmares when it comes to abductions since I started my awakening at 15 years old. And I saw myself in astral projection experiences in laboratories, etc. And I had like nightmares of getting abducted, etc. But around that time, I started having experiences when it comes to the grays themselves, you know. I remember that I will want to go to my bed and I will want to fall asleep, and I will see the eyes of the grays like in my third eye, and I will feel them paralyzing me, and I will literally get paralyzed in my bed. Okay, so I will be like literally paralyzed and couldn't move, you know. And I saw them in my third eye, and I was not even asleep; I was awake. And so it's what many people would call sleep paralysis. And so I remember this, and it was a pretty anxious experience. And they started to mess up with me. I started to have again, you know, nightmares of getting abducted. I started having, you know, astral projection experiences in which they will try to like extract sexual energy from me. And I will see myself in laboratories, like, and I will see women delivering babies for me, like not me delivering babies, but like another woman being like a delivering, like laboring for me, you know. So it was pretty interesting and pretty intense. I was not happy with the experiences, but at the same time, I was a little bit, you know, like hypnotized with the whole abduction, hybrid kind of thing. And synchronistically, I found out about this person that I talked about in my last video, which is Bashar. And this being, you know, he's a great human hybrid, and he's the kind of like head of this whole movement of the gray hybrid narrative that I criticized in my last video. And so he basically just appeared in my timeline when I was just scrolling in Facebook. And I remember that I saw Bashar, and I was like, who is this person that everybody talks about? Why is he so relevant? I need to know about him. I need to inform myself. So I did it, and I went forward with it, and I started researching about him, and I learned for the first time about the gray human hybrids. Like, I knew there was hybrid programs with the grays and that they were creating children, but I didn't know what was happening with that those children that were created. I didn't know what was being done, you know, with them and what they are about and what they want, etc. Like all those things, like their narrative, the narrative that I explained in my last video criticizing it. So to summarize a little bit, in case you haven't watched my last video, their narrative is basically that the Greys destroy their own version of Earth and destroy their own genetics because they perform these genetic programs within themselves that made them to disconnect with their human nature and their human emotional bodies. And instead, it will just let's say, enhance the psychic abilities and the psyche in general, the IQ, the intelligence, and also invest a lot in technologies and not take care of the resources of Earth. So basically, that is what they were doing. They were basically trying to enhance this aspect of them and destroy the other one. And that's why they destroyed their own version of Earth. And they ended up being at the face of extinction. And so they time travel, because they have that technology. They time travel to a version of Earth in which they could find viable DNA, compatible DNA, so that they will be able to harvest it and create these children and not get extinct because they will incarnate in these vessels. That's the summary. Now, the second summary, it's what's next, because we said that that is not everything to it. They said that that's not the whole, aspect of their agenda to save themselves. They are so selfish and so fucking, so strongly like narcissistic and selfish, those fucking butthearts, that they want Earth. They want Earth because they find it very valuable and they want what they lost back. So their plan is to create various generations of hybrids, each one's becoming more and more human, more like genetically close to human beings, so that they will have a way to passively reintroduce themselves into the matrix of Earth, into the planetary consciousness of Earth in the matrix, passively, very softly, in a way that it wouldn't cause like an impact. It wouldn't be like observed as a breakage of the law of no interference, so that they could genetically create like a stabilize the difference between our genetics and their genetics, so that by creating a bridge, boom, they will be able to find a way, through that bridge to be reintroduced into planet Earth. And so basically is them imposing their genetics, forcing us to go towards another timeline that involves their narrative and also another way of evolving, and getting invaded, but in a passive way. So the way that they're planning to do this is by making this last generation of hybrid children be emotionally manipulated parents to feel that they are their children, that they need to raise them, that they need to connect with them and live with them, so that they can be introduced to society, to our civilization, and then when they grow up, intersperse with us to create another hybrid race, another hybrid species. The ultimate step of the Grey Hybrid narrative in general, or agenda. So that will be basically the replacement of the human race. That will replace us 100%. It will be the imposing of their genetics in our planet. It will be the replacement of Earth for another hybrid species. That will not be us. It will not be in the natural, organic, non-transhuman timeline and evolution for us. So that's why I have been criticized and exposed in my last video, and that was the summary of it. So now I'm going to share my testimony. So I got aware of them that way, and I got these experiences. And I remember that I found Bashar, and I found that his teachings were very fun, very cool, and I was like, cool, like I resonate with this like teachings, because he's very scientific minded, and I am very scientific minded too. I'm very scientific minded. So, but I'm more emotional than him, of course, and their race, because I'm more human, of course. But I resonated with the metaphysics. I think it was cool, so I started to follow them. But at the same time, I was so heavily programmed. I was literally programmed, because I instantly, the whole narrative that I just summarized to you, I absorb it with like no filter. Okay, I absorb it, and I started parroting their words and parroting their narrative and trying to convince other people to participate in this narrative, like a slave, like a mind control slave, like a puppet. I was very obsessed with them, and I was very pro Grey Hybrid at the beginning. In fact, if you see one of my first interviews in which I was, one of my first interviews in which I was firstly introduced into the spiritual community, in the UFO community, etc., you will see that I was very pro Grey Hybrid, and that basically my message was parroting Bashar's words and the Grey Hybrid being's words, and basically just trying to convince people that the future of humanity was becoming hybrid, which is a psyop within the spiritual and UFO community, by the way. And you can see this in many events, like online events, like becoming hybrid. Like people start saying, oh yeah, we're becoming more hybrid. We're becoming more hybrid. We're becoming more hybrid. What the hell means becoming more hybrid? Becoming more hybrid will mean becoming more of our hybrid nature in terms of we are hybrids with Anunnaki and 22 different extraterrestrial races. So becoming more hybrid could be projected or expressed as a way of saying we are becoming more of those aspects. We're integrating more of those aspects that we got from the hybridization program that created humanity, so that we are integrating here more of the higher dimensional consciousness aspects from those extraterrestrial races from higher dimensions and other civilizations, more of the Anunnaki genetics, our ancestors. So, and not so much the hominid part. So that is understandable, you know, because it's a part of us and it's the one that holds and contains the higher fractal consciousness of our own collective, you know, because it's the DNA from higher densities than the one that was taken from Earth, the native, the indigenous hominids from Earth. So I can't understand that as like someone wanting to become more hybrid in that perspective. But someone wanting to become gray hybrid as a way to evolving, it's an option that I respect. Okay, I'm not imposing my belief systems, and I will never impose to anyone my belief systems. But I believe my opinion is that it's a dysgenic program, and if you're so convinced that that is your only way of evolving by becoming a hybrid with gray beings that are polluted as fuck, by the way, even though they did a lot of work and a lot of advancements and they were assisted, I don't care. They come from polluted timelines. They contain those karmic cycles of energy, so you're going to quantumly entangling with them. So becoming like mixing, believing that that is like the evolution for humanity is wrong. Okay, first of all, is wrong. That you want it for yourself is okay, is your decision. But to think that that is the only way for evolution, or the only path for humans to evolve, that there's no other way to get better, to get more psychic, more of our hybrid nature, more of our like potential, like superhuman potential, you're wrong. That's not true. That's simply not true, not accurate, you know? And that is what I exposed to in my last video, that it was a manipulation from this being called Bashar and the Grey Hybrids in their sharings, in their sessions, in their channeling events, that they always impose this idea that their timeline, the narrative in which we mix and intersperse with them to create this ultimate hybrid race, that will mean, you know, mixing with them, etc., and literally being replaced by another species. It's basically the what's going to happen. And they always narrate it with the word will. They say this is happening, this will happen. There's no other way about it. They say, and then this will happen, and then these people will do this, and then these people will do that, and then the children will learn, and then they will do this, and then they will create this, and then they will merge with us, merge with you, and then they will intersperse and blah 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 blah. They always share it in a way that they're using the verb will, as if it was a fixed, inevitable event in the future, not like a probability. They never say might, may. They never say it's a probability, you can choose it or not. They never give you that as an option. They tell you that as if it is the future, it is what is happening, it is what's gonna happen. No, it's not true. Unprogram yourself from that. They are delivering that information like that on purpose so that you get programmed and you believe that it is what it is and that there's no other way out, there's no other option. No, you have thousands and infinite probabilities and different options for evolution. So I'm not going to rant more because I already ranted enough in my last video. Okay, so I'm gonna continue with my story. So I was a very pro gray hybrid. I was programmed as fucked. I was like, oh yeah, because the children will come, and then this will happen, and then this and that, and this will be this, blah 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 bullshit, you know. And I was just like put in like a spotlight in which I was giving like I knew it. I had a script literally in my head on how to convince people massively to accept their hybrid children and this narrative as the future humanity. Like I had this script, so when I was first invited in my first interviews, it is what I will share. Like, and I will parrot everything like that, like with a script in my mind. And I was like, what the hell? Okay. I was obsessed. It was crazy. And so talking more about my story. So that was it at the beginning. But you know, that was not it. What was happening is that I was at that spot, you know, I was acting as a Trojan horse for their agenda, from their narrative. And I kind of knew, but I was okay with it because I was programmed, you know, to like it, to promote it, to go forward with it. So I had a very specific dream, like contact dream experience in which I met Bashar, okay? And this being, basically what he did is come towards me and say that the children are coming, you know, and we have to prepare the people, you know, blah, blah, blah. He basically said that, okay? And I was like, wow, I had a contact experience with Bashar. Wow, I'm being part of this, like, you know, preparing process. I'm so excited. Jesus Christ. So it was exciting at the beginning. Of course, I was very excited. I was very connected. I even worked for their company, for their income. I created a gray and hybrid depiction, like 3D art depiction. So anyways, I don't know what to say about that, but I'm very ashamed that I was so pro gray hybrid, but it is what it is. So then, what happened is that I at that time, it was 2020 when this was reaching its peak, and it was actually my first interview in 2020 or in 2021, something like that. And so in that year, exactly at that year, big changes were happening in my reality. Okay, so how to go forward with this, because it's a little bit messy in time. So prior to my connection to the whole gray hybrid narrative and everything, I was a person that was very connected to the narrative of the real society of Germany, of the Germans, with spacecrafts, technology, the secret space program, etc. I was very connected to that narrative. I was not like a strong believer of the secret space program, because I was like I thought that it had so much exopolitics that it was very confusing at that time. And I had a lot of astral experiences in which I was abducted by the military, and I was seeing myself in Mars and in the moon bases, and I was seeing myself as a super soldier, etc. And I had these, experiences, and I even had a regression prior to all this, in which I saw myself in one of my past lives in Germany and in a secret society which is called the Brill Society. And then I stepped back from that vision and I saw the word Maria Orsic. And I researched about who Maria Orsic is. And she was a medium from Austria that went to Germany to help basically the Germans construct the Hanevus, the saucers, that basically was delivered by extraterrestrials, so that it was a plan so that we will defeat the Cabal and all of that. And then they went to America and Antarctica, etc., etc. That's something that I will tell very deeply in detail in another video, but this was specifically about my testimony with the gray hybrids. But I needed to give you that context so that you will understand. So that is one of I was connected to that, I was very connected to those energies at that time. I was about 16, or something, or 17, 16, 17, approximately. So at 17 and 18 is when my shift to the whole focus of the gray hybrid narrative changed, and it was for some years that I stayed in there, again, as I shared with you. But prior to that, I had another connection midnight consciously with other groups who are not just the alliances, the SSP alliances or the Braille or whatever, but this time it was extraterrestrials. Okay, so I had contact from extraterrestrial beings that I now know that are Anunnaki, that I seen in my astral experience, like my astral contact experience, as to be blue-skinned and much taller and bigger than the usual, kind of like giant-like, but not reaching a very extreme level of giantness, So they were very big, they were very tall and blue-skinned, and they were dressed with Celtic robes, okay? And they were in a Nordic country, like in, I don't know what country, but it was like some of the islands of the UK, some of those countries. And they were basically all in a circle, like in a ritual, and they were meditating, and they placed me in front of them, and they said, it's not a coincidence that your second name is Saren, because it has a very special connection to us, which we are your ancestors. And when I researched the origin of the name Saren, the meaning, etc., the meaning is a star, but the meaning, the origin is Welsh, is from Wales, which is by the way, it was the Isle of Avalon. It was said to be the Isle of Avalon, so, which is connected to Hyperborea, that these beings told me that they are very connected from, and they helped me reconnect with that civilization, and I will talk that about later. So what happened to me is that basically I was, I was basically connecting with the gray hybrids. I was very excited. And then, as I said, in the year 2021 is when things shift strongly, okay? I started getting very intense downloads of my secret space program experiences, my connections to the real daemon, or the real mediums, and the real society, the Thule Society, also the alliances, the Anunnaki extraterrestrials that I mentioned before, these ancestors of mine. I was receiving strong downloads from them, and from the Nordic ETs from Aldebaran, who told me that basically I had a strong connection with them because I had many lifetimes in which I was one of them. And that's why I've always been obsessed with the Nordic culture since I was a child. And that's why I bleach my hair, because many people are like, why do you bleach your hair? Stop being stupid, okay? I'm medium brown hair, and I am proud of it. I'm from Spain, and I like my brown hair. I love it. fuck yeah, like, go Spain, okay? So stop pretending that I am bleaching my hair to look like an alien, because an alien doesn't equal blonde hair, and I am not pretending because I'm publicly saying that my hair is not naturally blonde. So what's the point? Stop saying that I'm pretending I'm not. I'm publicly admitting it, okay? I'm not even hiding it. So there's nothing wrong with like bleaching my hair. I do it because that's the reason why I bleach my hair, actually, that I found out. That because I had so much incarnations as a Nordic from Aldebaran, I saw, and they saw me the bodies, and in one of them I was a male. I was a very big, like male, like blonde, blue-eyed, very pale, and in another one I was a very big Nordic woman with very long platinum hair and very bright, like lilac kind of blue eyes. So because of these lifetimes, I always been so attracted to the north and so attracted to blonde platinum hair, and I love it, and that's, but I also love my brown hair, so no problem. Anyways, let's stay focused, okay? Well, it has to do with the narrative. It has to do, because otherwise you wouldn't get the context. So I'm explaining it correctly. So I was receiving all those downloads, okay? And so one of the things that happened, okay, is that I was starting to have my first memories of my secret space program experiences, okay? Both the positive ones and the negative ones, both, okay? And so I was offered a hypnotherapy session. Yeah, like regression session, okay? I was offered that session because I was not working at the moment. I was a student, so I couldn't pay it, and they just offered me that for helping me, and that was my let's say desire, that I will be helped, with recovering more of my secret space program memories, because I recovered a lot out of a sudden. They just came to me, and I started having even regressions by extraterrestrials. They will paralyze me in my bed, and they will put me into a trance, and I will have like memories coming back from my SSP experiences. So it was pretty intense, and I wanted that session to connect not only to the negative memories, but also the positive ones, because there's positive SSP factions, So I wanted to connect to that, and the positive groups that are working with them, with these alliances, with these good ETs, and with my star family, who are the Anunnaki, blue skin Anunnaki. So what happened is that I requested those questions to the hypnotherapists, and what happened basically is that when I was getting in trance, instead of getting in trance like fully and like getting like the information and that I wanted, that I requested to get, the connection, I was starting getting glimpses of information, of connection, but the connection was interfered and intercepted. So the gray hybrids took over the session, and suddenly they started to speak through me, and I started to, instead of like answering the questions again and connecting to the memories that I wanted to take, to recover, and the connections with these other groups that I was starting to get in contact with, to become more like conscious and established and receive more communication from them. Instead of getting them, what I got is like an interception, and suddenly they took over. It was going good, and suddenly they took over, and they started to talk through me in a very authoritative way. Again, always authoritative. Anyways, they want to impose themselves so bad, and they are so little that they want to sound like they are that they sound always like, or they act very authoritative always, because they want to like show themselves as more like authoritative, like impulsive, like more like less little, like with more power. I don't know, it's funny. Anyways, kind of like when show women have like a lot of like character, whatever. So anyways, that was intercepted, and they started to talk to me, and suddenly, so the hypnotherapist was asking questions, and suddenly they took over, and they said, Marina knows what she has to do. She's being prepared for this, like blah blah blah. She is like a hybrid from blah blah blah, and she's working with us and blah blah. Like I started saying this kind of like weird things about the narrative of the gray hybrid agenda, and they started to say that I was connected to Bashar, like blah 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 blah. That all that bullshit. And I was very pissed. Like when I woke up and I realized that the information that I got was intercepted, and was, like they imposed themselves in the session, and they pulled me over like completely into a different path. I was so fucked up. Like I was so fucking pissed. That's the word, pissed. That I was very angry, and I was a jet, like a pro gray hybrid. So I was very angry. I was like, why, like guys, like why do you freaking come to my session and intercepted it? Like, fuck off. Like I was doing something different. You jealous bitches. So I was very angry. And it was very it was very funny because it was like at first it was like, oh, maybe they did it because they wanted to save me from connecting from these people because they're negative, and the Anunnakis that reach out to me are negative, and maybe it's because it's the wrong path, because it's not the path of the great hybrids, their narrative, their plan, their agenda. So I was so programmed that I had all these thought processes going on, making me feel guilty. So sometimes I will be in conferences or interviews like, no, 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 but we don't have to connect to that. No, we have to focus on the hybrid program. Like you can literally see that in some of my interviews, and it's so funny. It's funny and also like pathetic. But anyways, I was programmed. I apologized. So so sad. So yeah, and so yeah, that happened, and I got to have, time passed, whatever. I forget about it. I said it, I was very peace, but I ended up having my regression with my SSP memories. What happened is what I told you about before, is that I got regressed by extraterrestrial beings, by my star family. I was so pissed that they heard they saw what happened, and they understood that it was not okay, and they helped me out. And what happened is that they come towards my room one night, and I became paralyzed basically, and I couldn't move, but I was awake. And then, like this, they put me into a trance, and I went back into my past when I was a child in the secret space program, and my child started to speak through, through me, and I started to narrate all the things that I've been through. So I did this, and they did this to me, and I've been this. I mean, I've been here, and this is what I leave, blah blah blah. And then also other connections came through, not just the negative memories, but also the positive ones. So I have this connection. I work with these groups, and there's this mission that we are part of, blah blah blah. And so I was happier, when I woke up, I was so grateful. I was like, thank you guys, like I needed this. Like definitely I needed this. Yeah. So yeah, I was like very, very relieved, and I forget about the topic, but more things were happening. And so one day I was receiving I was astral projected again. I was out of my body, and I was receiving a like a contact experience communication with these specific SSP alliances, and also like AT groups, like positive alliance groups, and also my star family, like on another part, because I don't know if they're all connected or not, but they were trying to, many groups that are either connected or not in between them, but they're like different groups who have wanted and waited so much, to connect them with me. They finally were trying to reach out to me and tell me about my soul purpose and my mission here. And when I was about to be told about my soul purpose, and they were telling me about my connections and etc., and making me remember more of who I am, it's when the gray hybrids fucking started to interfere again. So I was having this communication, and suddenly it glitched out, so it was like literally like interferences, in terms of frequency or vibrations or what, in my brain, in my consciousness. And I was glitching out, like the experience was glitching out, and I was like in between dimensions, in between one experience and another experience, in between one scenario and another. And I saw myself suddenly in my home, in my terrace, with the gray that supposedly is the father of my gray hybrid children. And this gray was showing me a baby, and he was holding the baby like this, and he was like, look, he wasn't saying look, but he was kind of like saying it non-verbally, okay, with vibration. And he was like very insistent, that I will like take that child, and I will like look at it and whatever, and have like generate an emotional, reaction to it and connect to it. And then he projected psychically, he was following me around, like I was going astrally around my house, like being a little bit pissed off that connection again was lost. And he was following me around, and he was literally showing me, like projecting psychically, showing me visions of events in the future. Like me, he showed me in this in my terrace, because I have a terrace, I live in an attic, in which I was growing plants and food and vegetables to use it to feed those children, basically. So I woke up, and at first I was a little bit neutral, because I was like, oh, that baby was cute, blah blah bullshit, But I was like developing, like slowly started to develop like rage, like I was getting pissed again, because I had a very interesting connection with this group, and it was again fucking sabotage, like fucked up. So it was really, really it made me angry, okay? It made me very angry. And so I remember that I said, fuck it, you're starting to harass me. You're starting to be very annoying. And I was like getting the energy, like I was starting to see the red flags, okay? I was starting to see the red flags there. And I didn't know what to do. So I was very angry. And I just continue forward. And so in the future, I mean, when some time also passed from that experience, what was going on, it's something that I will explain deeply in detail later about, that I will explain like as to the cause, the why of why that happened in my life, that it will make you understand why am I sharing this. So I had an experience. Okay, I had a series of events in my life manifest that were negative, traumatic, or something that made me disconnect from the groups that were trying to reach out to me, to contact me, to tell me about my soul mission and about my connections and my past lives, etc. And other kinds of information, other kind of options of evolution for humanity, etc. That, by the way, this is what pissed them off. If you realize that, I will tell you just right now, this is exactly what pissed them off, that these beings were offering me information that will put me in a position in which I will see like a broader, greater spectrum of probabilities for me for the future, for in terms of evolution, so that I will not only have to choose the great narrative or connect to that, but have plenty of other information and other opportunities for evolution. I was literally given this scheme, as you can see here. I was being taught that this was the intelligent design of the Anunnakis, of the natural evolution of humanity, in which we will go cycle by cycle. We'll have 7 principal cycles, as 7 is the color of our rainbow in our dimension, since our perspective in our matrix, because this represents the levels of our consciousness that we're able to perceive, because there are more colors in higher dimensions. As 7 is also the number of chakras that we have in our chakra system. Everything is connected like that, like perfectly. So it makes sense to me. I was basically taught this, that we have this opportunity, that we were becoming, that there was this timeline in which we were becoming a new race of superhumans, and in which we were basically becoming the sixth race, the sixth root race, okay? And that was our natural timeline of evolution, and that we were being assisted by many positive groups, etc., and that it will help me remember and reconnect with that information, with these lifetimes of mine in ancient civilizations, etc., and that they will help me activate that part of my DNA. So basically, this is what pissed them off, that I will be given different options, and I will start to be attracted to this idea of becoming the timeline of becoming the root race, the sixth root race, not the sixth hybrid race, as they say in their narrative. So again, as I was narrating, a series of events that were negative happened in my life that I didn't know that it was connected to the interference and the attacks of the great hybrids beings, that later then I found out, and I even got confirmed that it was true. So I will, for example, the first one, I remember that I was still, connected with the great hybrid agenda, whatever, but I was in the process of getting these downloads, these reconnections with these different kinds of groups, and this information of different timelines and different options, different opportunities for me. So I remember that I was very excited. I was very eager to learn more about it. And I remember that I was in a meeting with a friend of mine that also has similar interest, with ancient civilizations of the kinds that I was, the specific ancient civilization that I was being given information about. And so prior to that day, it's when I was told that I had connections to Aldebaran, and when I started to research a little bit about that, the Nordic Aryan ETs, they said, I heard a very beautiful, like, feminine angelic voice in my head said, you have connections to Aldebaran. And I was like, oh, sweet, And I was shown in a dream, like all those lifetimes in Aldebaran of me as a Nordic ET that I told you about, So I was reconnected, I was given this reconnection with them. They helped me remember more who I am. And so that connects, of course, with another narrative, because we in history is all interconnected, yes, but there's always different lineages, different cultures, different stories being told and being created, so different. So the Aldebaran connects to these other incarnations, these other groups that were in contact with me, which is the Vril Society. They were the ones who contacted Maria Orsic, the one that I mentioned, the medium that I mentioned from Germany, that gave this information about like anti-gravity technology to the Germans. And so I started to hear in my head the word Project Gutenberg. And I was like, what is that? Vril, Project Gutenberg. And I was like, what's that? And I researched Vril, Project Gutenberg. And Project Gutenberg, if you don't know, it's a page that offers books that are free, available in Word format, like in digital format, So I found the book that was called Vril, The Common Race, in which, the British Society, the Germans back then of the Thule Society and all the secret societies were basing, their whole knowledge on this idea of Vril energy that is the same as Qui or Chi energy, It is a universal energy that can be transmuted as any form of energy, basically, and it is infinite potential, blah, blah, blah. And it's used for free energy, anti-gravity technology, healing yourself, becoming more powerful, healing people too. It is something that I'm like, almost like rushing up a lot, because it's something that I wanted to talk about very deeply in another video, in which I focus on this more like strongly, solely, so that it is like centered around that topic rather than go deep into detail. But this one is about my testimony, in which I was getting attacked by the gray hybrids, and that's why I'm rushing up, or trying to summarize as much as I can. So the next day, I met with this guy that was also very interested in the Vril, in the Germans, in the Nordic ETs, and we were having a conversation. And as we were having a conversation, I had I'm a medium. I get information like telepathically, and also like a clairaudient, in a clairaudient format. I heard Hyperborea, 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 and I was like, what is Hyperborea? I asked him, and he was like, I don't know. I have no idea, to be honest. And I took my phone and I researched Hyperborea. And guess what? It's one of the civilizations that the Vril Society, the Thule Society, the Aldebaran, the Aryan ETs had a very strong connection to, because it's one of their origins. It's, Hyperborea was located in the North Pole, in the Arctic Cycle. And that's why Thule Society in Germany was called Thule, because Thule was the capital of Hyperborea. So Hyperborea will be like the origins of the Aryan race. It will be deeply also connected, of course, with the Nordic ET Aryan races, and also with my other star family, which is the other Anunnakis, which is the blue skin extraterrestrials, that told me that they were from the north. They showed me that they were from the north. They were Celtic, and this is the civilization that they showed me in that first dream. It was Hyperborea. So they were teaching me about that civilization, and I was very feeling like a lot of downloads of information, a lot of, I had even dreams before in which I saw myself migrating through one pole to another during the Ice Age, and I didn't know that it was until later, I was told later, that was me migrating from Hyperborea to the South Pole because of the Ice Age and all of that. So all of those things made sense of why I've always had so much visions and dreams with snow, with like places in the North, places in the South Pole, like why I've always been so drawn to it, why I've seen myself in past life regressions in the North Pole. It all made sense when they told me, when I made that connection, and when I connected that with Hyperborea. Okay. And with these ETs, ancestors of mine. So it is very interesting, and I was very excited. But with the next day, guess what happened? I woke up with very strong headaches and very strong like blurry vision and pressure in my brain, and like my thought process was very like poor, and I was like not able to think properly, and I had extreme somnolence, okay? And I was very dizzy, I was very fucked up, but I had so much strange neurological symptoms. I even had what is called a petit small seizure for some days that lasted very long. Do you know that thing that you all experience, in which you're living your life and suddenly your gaze gets fixed into a very specific point in a space like this, and then you're like, oh, okay, I was off for a moment, what happened? That is a small seizure, okay? Not a Caesar, not a Caesar, like a Caesar. I don't know how to pronounce it differently. Anyways, Caesar. I always have to point. I always have to do this in my videos. When am I going to stop? When am I going to stop? Okay. So basically, I had those like I will stare for a long time like this. And be like for a long time, and then I will be like back, and I'll be like, what the hell? And I feel like a lot of pressure and like tickles in my brain. I felt a very strong like weird neurological symptoms. I will fall asleep continuously during the day. I couldn't think properly. I thought that I had a tumor. And you know what? I was so programmed by the gray hybrids that I thought that I was having those symptoms because I was not aligning anymore with the gray hybrid narrative. And I was disconnecting from them and connecting with other beings and other probabilities and other timelines and other evolution options for me. Fuck. So, Jesus Christ, I was so stupid, wasn't I? So literally, I thought that I had a brain tumor, and I was very concerned. I thought I had a lot of stress. This is no joke, okay? I'm laughing, but this is no joke, okay? I'm seriously denouncing and exposing these people from the kind of shit they are, basically. So I thought that I had a tumor, and I run, I kind of like chicken out, and I run back to Bashar and the Grey Harriers, and I was like, please help me, please heal me, please, I don't want to die, please, I did a wrong thing, I'm so sorry, please, I'm so sorry. I was so poor me, you know. And I remember they say, okay, I'm never going to connect to this again. Okay, no, like seriously, no, I promise, I will never connect with this again. Okay, I will go back to the Grey Iron narrative. Like seriously, like that. Okay. And because I thought I was pro and that was the positive way for humanity, because that's what they tell you. They say it's either us or the great fucking timeline in which you destroy yourselves. They program you that way. They program people that way through Bashar. Basically, passively, I mean, indirectly or directly, but they communicate that literally. They never put other options as a possibility in which it doesn't include them and their narrative. They always say, well, we're here because otherwise you're going to the path of the grace. No, bullshit. That's not true. That's not true. No. So, because I was a program with these ideas, these beliefs, I chickened out and ran up to Bashar, and I was asking them for help to get healed. And I even thought I had a tumor, but no joke, something really strong was going on in my brain. Like, I had something like very strong neurological traits. I went to the hospital, and they thought it was anxiety, but I had very, very strong like neurological traits. Okay, they were very severe. And I remember that I spent 1 month being fucked up, not being able to channel, not being able to connect, to contact the other groups, to obviously also because I was scared. And I said that I thought it was not the negative path or something. So there was a time in which I was very fucked up, and I was very sad, depressed, anxious, scared. I thought I was going to die. And I followed the Grey Hybrids extremely, again, like religiously, because I thought that that was my salvation, you know? So I did that, and guess what? When I healed myself, and months passed, and they made it so that they would correct my path towards their own fucking desires and fucking narrative. They started to, I started to generate again the desire of connecting with the other groups, and I was starting to get again downloads from the other groups, because they were observing my excitement, and that I was finally becoming more open, So what happened is that the next event in my life that was related to them, that I will explain later, again, as I said, it's that I found a boyfriend, a partner, that was very connected to these topics, to this information. And he was very, very, very helpful to me to reconnect with all of this information, because he knew a lot about it. And we will have a very strong like soulmate relationship, because he was one of my soulmate. It was confirmed to me. And we were very like connected, and we were co-creating a lot in these terms. We were very deeply into these topics, into these connections, into this history, part of history, into these narratives and timelines. And I was finally detaching from the grace, because I found out that it was no longer what I wanted, and also because I felt that they were just trying to destroy my happiness and disconnect me from the things that I truly wanted to explore, and the things that I truly felt identified with. Because one of the things that I will realize when this kind of new information will come towards me is that is truly who I truly am. That is truly me, the real me. That is the thing that I truly am excited about. Those are the things that I'm truly interested in. That really like lights the fire within me, so to speak. They are the things that most define me, my traits, my personality, my ideas, my connections, my past life, my soul, my desires, my interests, the symbols that create me, my archetypal energies, everything. So basically, I was redefining myself, and I was very pissed off that the Greys were interfering in the past in these connections. So I realized, I said, no, the Greys wasn't imposed thing, because I thought I was programmed that is the only future, the only way of evolving, becoming Grey hybrid. So because I was programmed, and I realized at that very specific moment, I let go of the hybrids, I let go of the Greys, and I said I don't want to do anything else more with them. And I became very involved with these other connections, with these other groups. And I started to co-create deeply with them, and also through my soulmate, my partner at that time, and we were very deeply like involved again in co-creating and connecting to this information. And I remember that suddenly, okay, I'm not gonna share exactly like the whole scenario because it is private, okay, but suddenly one day I was going to the class that I often used to went to when I was doing a course about 3D animation. And I remember that I went to the class, and that day I decided that I didn't want to go out with my friends for the break, and I wanted to stay in because I was freezing. It was freezing cold, outside. So I stayed in the stairs, and suddenly this creepy guy came towards me. And he started talking to me, and I'm a nice person, so I was like, okay, cool, I'm gonna talk to him back. And then he started touching me in ways that were sexual, and he was starting to get aroused, and like he was starting to abuse me, not like severely, not like extremely to a level in which I will call the police or what, but he was starting to harass me and to sexually abuse me basically. And I was so shocked that I didn't know what to do. And I remember that I didn't go directly to my home. I stayed in class like severely like traumatized. But I remember that and I'm not a weak person, okay? But I was very shocked, of course, that day. And so I remember that I called my mom and I said, please, please, pick me up from classes, please. I need to go home. I need to go home now. And I went into the car and I started crying, 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 and saying, feeling very traumatized. And then what I said is, I don't want to be with my partner anymore. I don't want to do anything with boys anymore. I don't want to do anything I don't want to connect with sexuality, with sexual and with sex, in general. I don't want to do anything about it. I don't want to know anything about boys. I was like that, and it made me to fall apart, to disconnect from my soulmate at that time. I'll explain later how this has to do with the narrative of the Great Hybrids. Don't worry, I'm getting there. So luckily, unfortunately, I recovered. Also, pretty fast, I recovered, and I went back to my relationship with that partner at that time, and we continue our relationship, and we were together again. We were working again. We were connecting again, and sharing information about this. And he was teaching me a lot. I was teaching him a lot too. It was we were very connected to these groups, to these specific other narratives and parts of history, because he was also very connected to the real society, and he knew that I was a real incarnated medium. So one of the things that happened next, I'm not going to go again into detail because it's private, but something happened so that there was drama created in the relationship, and we basically ended up breaking up, okay, and separated. So so I was very pissed, and I felt like something was off, because I felt that the relationship was very targeted. And so what happened is that the next day, not the next day, the same night that we broke up, I was abducted by the Grey Hybrid programs, and I was put into a ship, and they put me close to a hybrid child and to this supposed parent, Grey parent that they want me to be with or something. And they were basically telling me about the next hybrid baby to have to deliver. And I was like, what? And she was like, oh, when do you want to have it? They were talking about another baby. And I was like, so depressed, so heartbroken, and they will just boom. They didn't wait it 1 second. They just abducted me that same night, and they put me to work, directly working. And I was like, heck, I'm getting something. I'm getting energies as if my relationship with this partner, with this soulmate, was sabotaged, not only because he was granted me a connection with these other groups very strongly and teaching me a lot of these other probabilities and these timelines, but also because what they seem to insist is that I get to marry or like become a partner to this gray being, and I raise those hybrid gray little children in my house. I mean, in Earth, because that's their narrative, that they will land and the hybrid parents will keep them and raise them, whatever shit. So I was like, what if this relationship was targeted? I'm a strong intuitive psychic, and I felt a strong energy that it might have been that way. Okay. So, and at the same time, I said, what if the events that made me disconnect and chicken out, from connecting with these other groups and these other timelines, was also like a manipulation, so that I couldn't receive more information that the other groups were giving me. Because, when I had these neurological strong symptoms, what happened is that I couldn't receive more information. I was in the middle of a strong download, and it was totally sabotaged and hijacked. So it was very fucked up. And I started thinking, well, maybe they are part of this. And I started to become very, very, very angry, very severely, very angry, because this was reaching like sabotage. It was reaching like levels and limits that I cannot even just, you understand, just by yourselves. You understand what I mean, right? Like, it's not that they're just pushing or trying to convince me. No, they're psychically harassing me, interfering in my contact experiences, manifesting or sabotaging like aspects of my life so that I am pulled away to another path and I get stuck with them and their fucking like desire of create a family with them and their, you know, connect with their timeline and their narrative and be their train horse and convince people out there of their narrative, blah blah blah, all these things. So I was getting very angry, you know, and I was about to, you know, to explode somewhere emotionally. And I remember that I had a very special contact experience, and this is where I was going to, with my blue skin Anunnaki star family guides. So they came towards me in this contact experience. I was astral projected, and they came towards me, and they showed me psychically visions of these specific events that I just narrated to you of my life. The event in which I had these strong neurological symptoms and I was so scared and I thought that I had a brain tumor and I had to go back to the gray narrative because it was I was feeling like fault and I was like, Bashar, please help me. The event in which the person of my class, that classmate, abused me or harassed me so that I will not want to be with my partner and I will freak out about sexuality and I will not want to know anything about partners. And the event in which there was trauma, there was drama in our relationships that caused us to separate and break up, basically. And the situations in which I was going to get the, you know, contact experiences and the hypnotherapy sessions, the regression sessions, and they basically interfered and sabotaged them and imposed themselves in the connection. They were saying me telepathically that they were behind these events. So when they show me these visions of these events in my life, they say that they were involved in manifesting these scenarios, these circumstances in my life on purpose to effectively tear me out their path, you know, pull me over towards their path, you know, their connection, their narrative, their desires, their outcomes, their selfish outcomes, their agenda. And then they will say something that I will never forget. And it is, Marina, they will do whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. And that shocked me so much. I was like, okay. So this is who they truly are, huh? They are highly sociopathic, manipulative, invasive, hostile, insensitive, and empathic, malicious, toxic. They purposefully destroy, like, put a lot of effort in destroying one precious relationship that I had with a person that I love so much, only because it was disconnecting me from them and connected me with a different possibility, a different timeline, and a different partner that is not a fucking gray. And they were basically fine with me experiencing it for months, very strong damaging neurological symptoms that put me into a lot of anxiety, fear, like extreme fear of feeling that I was, you know, that I had a very great bad disease, you know, in my brain, like a tumor or something. And also like this sexual like harassment from that other person and all the interference that will disconnect me obviously from the things that makes me happy. They are that insensitive that they have been they are so unhuman, they are so sociopathic that they have been co-creating these things in my life so that I will just follow their fucking narrative and they will get fulfilled with their own desires. I was so fucking angry and so fucking shocked, you know. And I saw at that time the true colors. I was like, fuck, what I've been doing for years, what I've been promoting for years, what the fuck I did. But that is not it. That is not the whole. That is only the piece of the cake. That is only the cherry on top of the cake, okay? The frosting of the cupcake. That, by the way, is very delicious. I love the frosting. So, yes, so basically this happened. And I was very traumatized and I was very scared and I was very angry and anxious and I was very angry against them. And I was like, fuck off, you know, like I retired all my consents from the Grey Hybrid programs. I retired it. And guess what? I had a dream in which I was falling asleep. And as I was falling asleep, I was waking up in another body that was not my body. It was a hybrid body vessel, a Grey Hybrid vessel. And basically what I saw in the dream is that if I will wake up in that vessel, I will die in this one, in this human vessel. And what they will tell me is, I will hear a voice saying, Marina, maybe it's better if you pass away and leave Earth because you're not following the agenda. And I was like, okay, no, now we're getting in terms of death. Now we're getting into the idea of death, and that's bullshit. That's it. That I'm off, you know. And at that moment, I was severely like freaking out. You know, I was like, what the hell is going on? Because also I was surrounded. I used to be surrounded by people who were also so pro gray hybrid. So everybody was like, maybe it's a projection of yours. Maybe it's a belief system of yours. Always bypassing. This is the same. This is the same bullshit in the spiritual community. Always bypassing. When they put an extraterrestrial or a fucking glorious teaching guru in a fucking pedestal, this is always what happens. They will always bypass with the same bullshit, parroting their own words and their own teachings. Maybe it's your own projection, maybe it's your own belief, maybe it's this, maybe you have to learn that this is your own energy. I know that this is my own energy. I know that this is a belief. I know, but it doesn't quit the fact that these beings are doing that, you know? It's the same as going towards a person that is getting stabbed in the heart in the street and saying, instead of denouncing it and saying, hey, this person is trying to kill a person. Hey, it's a psychopath. It's a killer. It's a serial killer. Come on, you know, like, let's put him in jail. Instead of doing actions and judging a person for his actions that are criminalistic, you come towards them and say, well, you have to understand that you cannot blame them because it is your reality and you're the creator of your reality. So because you create your reality, it is a projection of your own belief system. So it is your own responsibility. The same bullshit, you know, bypassing. Because those teachings are truly on a higher level, but they are being misused in the community by bypassing, and mostly by that community, the gray hybrid community, mostly by them. They just parrot Bashar words, and it's just impossible. They're like trolls. Run away if you find any of them fighting with you, because they are going to make you get into a loop that you're going to lose your mind. You're not going to be able to get away because they just go into the same loop and loop and loop in a cycle, like literally, like nonstop. Jesus Christ. So anyways, so as I was saying, I was very freaked out by them, and this time things got even worse. So my star family contacted me about telling me that I had a very special connection with a country that had a special connection to them, to the Celts and to the Hyperborean civilization groups, you know, and to these specific star beings, you know, these Anunnakis. And so they suggested me to go to that country to reconnect with them and with the energy of the country and the history of it, you know, and I did. And so what happened next is that the day that I booked my tickets to this country, that same night I received a threatening message in my dream state from the gray hybrids, in which they showed me really specific events in which my trip was sabotaged, but not by the planes being, the flights being canceled or something, but me having negative circumstances and negative events in that experience in that trip that will make me so that I wouldn't be able to connect with the energy of the country and with my star family and with those, you know, that culture, that energy, etc. So that it will make me basically like, it will just sabotage my trip, you know. They saw me visions of that and they said, we're going to sabotage your trip to this country. I'm not going to name the country, but you know. And I was like, it was a serial threat, you know, they said it clearly and they showed me these specific events. And so I was concerned because I observed and I was confirmed already by contact from my star family that they can influence somehow events in my life. That then I was explaining the metaphysics of how they do it, because it will be very weird to just let's say that they just can boom, you know, create events, co-create events in your life like that, and like nothingness, you know, with no effort. But they don't worry, because there is a science to it. They explained to me in downloads, my star family, the science as to how and why they were able to manifest, to co-create these events in my life, which is basically, to summarize it, psychic projections through the implantation that they put in my brain and through the genetic implants that they place in my knees. So it's a quantum entanglement that they created, so that their energy, our realities, will be so quantumly entangled and intersected, so that they will place a lot of their energy in me, so that their psychic projections towards the subconscious, my subconscious, that is the responsible of creating and manifesting events in my physical reality, will be not filtering, of course, my ego will not be filtering that energy, because it will be unconscious, and I will be directly manifesting their energy, their psychic projections, you know. And that's how they will co-create, you know, so easily, the psychic projection attacks, you know, of manifesting events in my life. So I was very scared, you know, because I already have like proof, and I already have like a confirmation that this is something they can do. And I was very scared, but at the same time I was like, no, there's no way they're going to, like, this is going to happen. I can't avoid it, of course, you know. Guess what? Everything that they showed me in the dream in which they threatened me, all of the things they showed me ended up happening exactly the same way. And so my trip was sabotaged, and I didn't enjoy it, and I experienced a lot of pain. I'm not going to get into details, but It was fucked up. The same way that they showed me. So, so at that point, I was very pissed off, and I understood that they were very angry. But the next thing, this is not even the whole thing, okay, of the cake. That's the cake, but not the whole of it. The next thing that happened is that I finally removed all forms of contract. I worked so hard to remove all forms of contracts with the gray hybrids, totally deleted all pictures that I had of them, all channeling sessions, all that I bought in the past or what. I deleted everything, like all that kind of things from my profile, all of my, I disconnected from my friends that were pro hybrid and that were basically gaslighting me or bypassing me, spiritually bypassing. And so I did all of that. I did a lot of working in affirmations and contract removal and saying I no longer give my consent to the gray hybrid programs. I retire my consent from the gray hybrid programs. And I did a lot of work to detach myself from that gray entity and those gray children beings, So gray hybrid children beings. So at the time I was starting to receive, I finally was able to receive very strong communication from my star family into what my soul mission is here and what is my soul purpose, who are they, more who they are, more who I am, more information about the groups that are reaching out to me, that are trying to collaborate with me, to co-create with me, to help me humanity, and to become basically, and guidance to become the sixth root race, So at that moment, I received a very severe attack my way. But this attack was not like events or like interference or things like in the past. This time was a direct psychic, like energetic projection that was fucking scary as fuck. It was fucking threatening, like life threatening as fuck. It is the most extreme psychic attack I've ever experienced in my whole life. And I've been through MK Ultra, but I've never experienced a psychic attack like this, like never. So all of a sudden, when I woke up from that contact experience that I was working towards that goal and I was finally detaching from this grace, what I felt is an energy, a very strong energy, like very threatening, negative energy, pressuring me, putting me like a lot of pressure in my heart space, in my soul, making me feel, making my breath like accelerate and my tension to go very high, to the degree that I felt it felt like as if I was threatened with a gun, or well, or as if I was like being about to die or fall off of a cliff or threatened. It was not more like that. It was more like someone, like an energy, like a being, like, or beings, more than one being threatened me all at once with a very monstrous, like terrible, terrific, like threatening energy, telling me basically that they wanted to kill me and they wanted to, pull me away from Earth, like basically take me away from Earth. Okay. That is exactly how I felt it. And so the symptoms, the physical symptoms at first, they were very like mild, but still very strong. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't stay calm. I couldn't sleep. I had a lot of high tension. But when I describe this, please don't imagine the cases in which this is, like normal and, you can carry on with it and, it's not pleasant, but you still can carry on with them. No, I couldn't. Like when I tell you that I couldn't sleep, even with like medication for sleeping, or even with like, let's say, meditation or like relaxation or like whatever, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't sleep. I stayed the whole night awake. And when I was even in my class, like my tension was so high, what I felt basically is that I was dematerialization, dematerializing. I felt that I was basically going to be like taken off Earth, like this, with this strength, like taking off, like directly, as if someone that was a giant was taking me with its hand and boom, like pulling me away from Earth, or someone was ripping off my soul from my body, like literally like that. Okay, I'm not exaggerating. I put in so much emotion in this because it is. I just can't, I don't have words to explain to you how severe this energy felt. It was so extreme. Okay, so extreme. So basically, what it was, days after days after days after days, and there was a point in which I didn't sleep. I was going to fucking pass out. And suddenly I finally, through meditations, through relaxations, I could sleep a little bit. And I slept also other nights a little bit, but it was very little. And so I could sleep again some hours. And what happened, it was that I was taken out of my body and I was brought to a gray hybrid ship. And who did I saw? The fucking gray hybrid. The fucking gray parent of my gray hybrid. I don't want to say my, but because I reject them, but those gray hybrid children that he created with my DNA. That same gray entity, the one that showed me the baby in the visions, in their interferences, that one. And he was looking at me. He had no face expression. He was looking at me, and I was feeling he was little, okay, because he's a gray, but all of the energy that was being projected towards me that I felt so threatening and that was harming me physically so bad and spiritually and mentally, all of the terrific energy that was being projected towards me was, I felt how it was basically being emanated from him, like he was threatening me and like clearly like communicating like directly, I'm threatening you, like I'm going to kill you for doing this. And I was like, I'm fucked up, if this little gray can project this amount of energy, I'm fucked up, So the next thing that would happen is that they brought me into another room in which there were gray hybrids that were more grown up, and they started bullying me. They started saying, you were going to become famous. You were going to become a very famous figure by promoting the gray hybrid and explaining the gray hybrid agenda. And you were supposedly representing us, and you were supposed to do this and do it, but you're not going to be famous like that anymore because you're not representing us. Look at this other person. She might get famous and you're not. Like basically very childish things, but very stupid, like bullying, like they were trying to cause like psychological damage, and they were yelling at me. They were like yelling at me, like that. Like it was so shocking. I was like, who the fuck I would have been following all these years, literally. So what happened is that I woke up and the attack didn't stop, and it got into a degree in which I felt that I was dying. Okay, there was a moment in which I thought, I'm dying, I'm passing away. And suddenly, just at that moment, I received a strong download. Okay, I start not so all of a sudden, but slowly, I got a strong download. Okay, from my star family, from the Anunnaki blue giants. And so what they showed me, okay, is that they taught me how they were psychically projecting that attack towards me and what it was doing to my body, so that I was feeling like I was dematerializing or dying, basically, like my soul was passing away or disconnecting from my body. And so what they explained to me is that what they were causing is that this gray entity and other Anunnakis that were connected, negative Anunnakis that were connected to this gray hybrid program, they were projecting this psychic attack towards my energetic vortex pivot centers, like pivot points, I'm talking about the Merkaba, which is a structure that has two tetrahedrons, and they spin into different directions, and they are basically creating our body of light. Well, that is the body that makes it so that we are contained. That orientation, that spin of the two, is what connects the higher level consciousness of the above with the lower consciousness of the below. So it's like basically the idea of incarnation. The soul, the higher levels, in a body, the lower levels. It's like the two of them like intersecting and balanced, and in a balanced way, making it so that your soul can be controlling. I mean, basically experiencing the matrix through the vessel, like going around with the vessel and being stabilized, being grounded there, So basically what they told me is that this psychic attack was being projected towards me to target my Merkaba, the orientation of the electromagnetic field of my Merkaba, to be disrupted, to spin in different directionalities in a way that it will disrupt that balance. It will destroy the balance of my higher aspects and my lower aspects, my soul and my body, so that basically I will dematerialize, which will mean basically my soul leaving my body, dying. And they explained to me that the way that will be represented in the physical, in terms of physical symptoms, it's that my tension as the breathing is directly connected to the Merkaba, because it's a direct energetic exchange with the electromagnetic field of the external of your field of the your environment with your own torus field, in which the Merkaba is integrated, which is your own again, your electromagnetic field that is always exchanging electromagnetic energy with outside and refreshing it, and stabilizing it, balancing it. Basically, they said that it was causing me that breathing to go very fast, and that very fast breathing was causing my blood pressure, my tension to go very high, to a degree that it will cause me physically a brain aneurysm. And I researched it, and it's true that if you reach a very high blood tension or pressure, you can die of an aneurysm. So I was very shocked, of course. I didn't want it to die, but I felt like passing out. I was always like literally like feeling like I was like doubling myself, like my soul was like being like someone was about to grab my soul and get it out of my body. I was constantly feeling that energy, that experience, that feeling. Fortunately, this star family, these guys also shared with me material on how to stop the attack. These guides of mine also angelic beings were guiding me in the process. They helped me. They told me, they taught me very specific breathing techniques in order to balance my Merkaba and visualization, in order to balance my Merkaba, so that I was able to maintain that, let's say, natural orientation, magnetic orientation axis, the balance of those two electromagnetic vortex energies together, so that I will not feel going to dematerialization, which is death, which is, being my soul being pulled out of my body. And I could ground myself in the vessel. And through those very deep meditations and visualizations, I could survive the attack. So if it was not because of my family and my star family and my guides and those downloads, I wouldn't have been here for sure. And I want to let that sink in, because I want you to see, to realize the level of psychopathy that is involved from these beings that many of us put one time or still put in pedestals as very positive beings of love and light that just want to help us, that they are our family, our cousins, and they just want the best for us, and they're very innocent. At first, we had harassment, interruptions, disruptions, whatever. Then we have psychic harassment. Then we have psychological manipulation. Then we have literal co-creation, psychic projections in forms of attack and target for manifesting events in our life that were traumatic and very negative oriented and very, very, very traumatic and very very fucked up in my life, that will tear me up, that will pull me over towards them, and will disconnect me from the other people that were desiring to work with me, and disconnect me from my true self and my true desires and my true essence. Then we have the sabotaging of events again, and then we have bullying, and then we have straight away hostility, attempt of assassination, attempt of murder, attempt of killing me. I'm telling you from the bottom of my heart and soul that I'm not exaggerating. If it was not because I was helped by my star family, I will have been dead by the day after dying. Completely dead. Buried. They were serious about their actions and committed to their attempt of murder. And they were clear and transparent about it. With me, of course, not in the public, so that everybody sees their true colors and their agenda is fucked up and destroyed and fails. No, of course, no. Only in private. And then, of course, very openly and very, freely, because people will think that I'm making things up, or that I'm crazy, or that I'm exaggerating. Correct. Well, guess what happens? Guess what happened? I reached out to a very famous channel, which I'm not going to name because I don't want to pull him into this narrative for his own, rights. I don't want people maybe to reach out, to think that he's biased or something in this. But he is a very good channeler. He is a great channeler. He channels very pretty much non-agenda based extraterrestrials that are very positive oriented, very just very unconditionally loving, very beautiful energy. And when I explained to them everything that happened to me, about the Greys attacking me and sabotaging me and blah blah blah, and almost trying to kill me, attempting to murder me, they confirmed to me that all of the things that I was explaining that I experienced were true. Because some people came to me and said, of course, you're being deluded, you are being misguided, you're being misled by other entities pretending that it's them. No, wake up. This is who they truly are. I'm sorry to destroy your fantasy, but those beings are monsters. They are just so agenda based. I just don't know how people don't see this. They're so agenda based. So agenda based. They want so bad Earth and our evolution. They want so bad what they want that they are capable of doing this. Thanks. And I'm sure I won't be the only one. And this has many reasons of why they did it. And the attempts of murders has many reasons, but also because I was starting to expose them. But the attempt of murder became more intensified as I started to change the narrative that I was starting to share in my public sharings and in my interviews that reaches thousands of people, and say that they are negative and can be very hostile and manipulative and harassing. They became very angry when I started exposing them. And I barely reached out this point in my life in which I'm able to finally detach my energy from their energy, because they did a lot of manipulations, not only psychologically in terms of consciousness and subconscious programming, but also the implantation. The implantation creates a very strong psychic quantum link, and the genetic implants that they infuse of the children that they create from you also creates a very strong, let's say, quantum entanglement, so that the realities again are so intersected that they can place a lot of their energy in your own psychic bodies and energetic bodies, and they can co-create that easily, in your life, what they want. So I mean, not what they want, I mean, it's an attack. They can co-create this psychic attack projections onto you so easily, basically. So yes, so as you can see, they are fucked up, they are fucking monsters. They are not the positive beings of love light that they have presented themselves to be for a lot of time during the public sharings of the Grey Hive. It's all bullshit, okay? I'm saying this is what they're capable of, and it's fucked up. So yes, we're not just dealing with a passive Grey Hybrid invasion, attempt of invasion. We're dealing with a hostile attempt of invasion from the Grey Hybrid species, from the Grey Hybrid programs. And this is my story. I am doing better to the day of today because I received a lot of intense downloads, teachings from guides, from channel beings, from my higher self. I deprogram myself a lot of the beliefs that they place in me, that they program me in the past, of course, in my subconscious. I am programmed myself from the identification, like the self-identity that I have with them. I no longer feel identified with any of their energy, any of their vibe, or their reality. I did a lot of work to place in me, in my field, a lot of my true self energy and connect with the groups that I truly in vibrational match with, and truly connected to, and that I am part of, from heart and soul and genetics too. And I am finally working with them and much easier with less interference, of course, because the more that I work on myself to detach them from my reality, the less that they can place their energy upon me, and the more that I can work with the beings that I prefer, with the timelines of evolution that is more of my preference. Okay, so I hope that my video was informative, and that I helped you understand and see the true faces of these people, the true colors of these beings, and that I raise awareness on what kind of monsters are these beings, and how manipulative and deceitful they can be, and how it's so shocking that a race can present themselves for years as very positive oriented and very innocent and yeah, very will never hurt a bug, and then do this kind of things behind the scenes, when things doesn't go as they planned or as they prefer or as they want so bad. And this is it, guys. These beings are highly agenda-based beings. They want, and the great genetics are like that. They're very stubborn. They want what they want, and they're going to do whatever it takes to get what they want. I'm just quoting my star family here. They will do whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. And by the way, the beings that were channeled by that channeler that confirmed to me that I was having these experiences and these attacks from them, they quoted the same phrase. They said, Marina, they will do whatever it takes. They quoted it like the same way. But they helped me. They say that, we can give you guidance on how to detach yourself from these beings that have malicious intentions towards you. And I'm following their steps, and I am getting better and more liberated and freed from them, because all the time I was a slave, and now I'm not. And I'm very happy, because each day I feel them less. I feel their presence less. I was recommended to get an MRI by these ETs to disrupt the electromagnetic energy in the physical expression of my consciousness, so that I will be able to let go more of that, of that connection, of that way that they have to connect and reach out to me and project their psychic energies. they said that the MRI is a strong enough field, electromagnetic field, that can disrupt the electromagnetic energy from the implantation. So I'm gonna. Oh, I think I will have to fake some headaches, to the doctor. Please get me an MRI. I hope that you liked the video in terms of like finding it informative, and I hope that that me exposing them raises awareness on who are these beings' true colors and what they truly are about, and how agenda based they are, to the degree of being so um of attempting to be hostile towards human consciousness, and to the level of like the circumstance of the possibility of even losing a human life. So I hope that this opens people's eyes and that it raises awareness. And I hope that more people that have similar experiences, or that have had experienced similar scenarios with them, or sees the same things, exposes them in the future. And I see that many people are doing it right now. So I really hope that all of that, and I guess see you on my next video. Thanks for watching. Give it a like if you like the video. Subscribe if you're new and you wish to know more of me and get more information about who I am and my content. And stay tuned. And I guess, again, see you in my next video.